Welcome back into the Pig Trail Show. Evan Kamiko alongside Kevin McPherson in this week's Hog Hoops Report. Kevin will jump right into it. An interesting day, to say the least, yesterday with the news breaking about 10 minutes before the game that Devo Davis has decided to step away from the Arkansas Razorback men's basketball team. This isn't the first time that he has stepped away from the team in the last 2 years. Devo did step away last year as well as this year. And on top of that, Devo was at Holcomb Elementary School on Friday, donating $10,000 to one of the local schools. So Devo has been, in Fayetteville and in the area, but the announcement came right before game tipped off against number 6 Kentucky. What are your thoughts on the situation, Kevin?
Well, you mentioned it. It's back-to-back seasons. Arkansas, there was a bit of a kerfuffle that could be seen and noticed for those that were in Maui when Arkansas a year ago in the Maui Invitation last season. And Arkansas returns home, and Devo Davis stepped away briefly and missed a game. He missed Arkansas's following game. And then there were some details that came out about some stuff going on with a family member and personal stuff. Also, information that kind of seeped through about, maybe some rough edges and, some disagreements program wise. So maybe both things were going on at once, but that was the reason a year ago. We didn't get any further detail from Eric Musselman. He was asked multiple times in the post-game press conference yesterday to elaborate on the statement. It was a one-sentence statement released by the U of A. Says Davis has stepped away from the program. What it doesn't tell us, and you had mentioned that he decided to, we don't even know that for sure. He stepped away, but we don't know if that's a mutual decision, if that's Devo's solely him. We just don't even know that much. So I thought, this has been a disappointing season for everybody. Certainly Devo Davis. When you look at him individually as a player, he's probably having his worst season at Arkansas, and he's a fourth-year guy who's had a ton of success, especially in the postseason. He's been as instrumental in what Eric Musselman's been able to accomplish at Arkansas as anybody, in terms of a player. And so, Devo's been up and down in his career, though, in terms of, having stretches of not playing that great, having some poor stretches in games, and then he has great stretches. So he's been kind of up and down even when he's been solid overall in seasons. This season, it's not been up and down. It's been mostly down in terms of on-court performance. So, and you can see a lot of the game's frustration on a lot of players' faces. You see a lot of disconnects, lack of buy-in sometimes, lack of effort. Devo in the previous game at Ole Miss only played 8 minutes, first half minutes, had 1 field goal attempt, 0 points, I think a turnover, and that was it. And so we've seen a few games like that this year from him. Until we learn more, it does resemble what, as much as we know now, it might resemble what happened last year. Maybe he's not stepped away for very long, but we also don't know if this becomes a permanent thing, which you would hate to see him and his legacy tarnished by not completing his senior season, not knowing all the details and what's going on there. I can't judge those, but just on the face of a guy like Devo Davis and what he's meant to the program, to step away and to be away and not complete what he started in mid-season. You hope that that's not part of, unfortunately it probably would be part of his legacy, but you hope the good stuff outshine that moving forward. I don't want to get ahead of myself because we don't know how temporary this might be. We don't know a lot other than stepped away from the program, and that's what it is right now.
Absolutely. Davis was averaging 6.3 points this season, a little over 4 rebounds. So not having the year that most Hog fans are accustomed to. And I think Jalen Williams summarized it the best in his tweet when he said, don't go after Devo for what's going on. Remember him for all that he's done to set the tone of what this new era of Eric Musselman Arkansas basketball has been. And I thought, the reaction, obviously a lot of negative things said on social media that you never want to see, because at the end of the day, these guys are players. And Williams said that really well in his tweet. Again, hoping for the best for Davis moving forward, and hopefully we'll know a little bit more on the situation, and of course update our website as all of this develops. Anyway, Kevin, let's move on. Let's talk Kentucky. Obviously, the loss 63-57 wasn't the result that Arkansas wanted, and the offense, the offense is broken. I think it's fair to say the offense doesn't have a lot of rhythm, not a lot of momentum. But the defense yesterday, can we start on a positive? Because the defense yesterday, the physicality, there's a lot of 7-footers on that Kentucky roster. And Arkansas's big men held really well against the Cats.
Yeah, I think there was a bigger positive. I want to get into that. I think the biggest positive was, as bad as things have been, if some of these blowout losses and some of the lack of effort, you could see the lack of buy-in, some of the things where it just really turns into an avalanche on Arkansas on national television, ESPN, game days in the house. It's Arkansas, Kentucky. Arkansas put up a fight. Arkansas gave itself a chance to win. And that's probably, to me, the biggest thing, however it managed to do that. How it managed to do that's what you brought up, the defensive effort and the physicality. So I think the big takeaway is Arkansas, with eyes on the program, battled a top 10 rated Kentucky team. I talked about it all week. The one advantage Arkansas has is this is not a typically physical Kentucky team. Usually it's a team that dominates the paint, dominates the glass, gets to the free throw line too much probably, and just wears you down, and with depth and a lot of these All-Americans they pull out of the high school ranks. And this is not a Kentucky team like this. A high-octane offense. It's a finesse team. It's a three-point shooting team. And it's a team I thought Arkansas would match up finally against somebody with a chance to maybe have an edge in physicality. It's exactly what happened. You saw Mekhi Mitchell with a double-double, blocking shots, 4 block shots, 13 rebounds, 12 points, 8 of 10 at the free throw line. That far exceeds his efficiency as a free throw shooter. I thought he was big. Chandler Lawson got the start, and I thought he did some good things, rebounding, helped Arkansas hit a 3 in the first half when Arkansas built an 18-8 lead, a 10-point lead for the Hogs starting out. Arkansas needed a fast start. That was something else I touched on in some of my pregame content stuff that I put out. They needed a fast start. They needed to be the more physical team. They needed battle in some of these blue-collar areas. Arkansas was +5 in rebounds. What really hurt Arkansas, I thought, in the second half, Evan, in a game where, again, the Hogs led for most of the first 30 minutes. What really hurt Arkansas was Kentucky began to play through Reed Sheppard. They ran their offense through Reed, and he did a great job. First of all, he was scoreless in the first half, 0 of 5, scored all 14 of his points in the second half. So he got hot. He made some threes. But his ball handling and breaking down defenders on drives and then kicking out to guys like Trey Mitchell and Antonio Reeves, who we know can cook, right? Mm-hmm. Game high 24 points.
He did a little of that yesterday.
Game high 24 points for Reeves. But I thought it was Reed Sheppard that was the catalyst for everything. 14 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and 4 steals. This guy stuffed the stat sheet. And some of those live ball turnovers, you talk about they started getting hot from 3, but also Kentucky really kind of ramped up the turnover battle in the down that stretch. 13-9 +4 for the game, but +7, 12-5 in points off turnovers. And we saw how that played out in that last 10-1 run when it was back and forth and it was a 1-possession lead, a 10-1 run to close the game effectively before Mekhi Mitchell's and 1 at the end to change the final margin. But that 10-1 run put Kentucky up by its biggest lead by 10 points. So each team had a 10-point lead. Arkansas early, Kentucky at the end when that's when you want that kind of a cushion. But those turnovers and steals there and in that stretch, and Kentucky converting those for easy, fast break scores. So that the 3-point shooting, Arkansas held Kentucky. This is a team averaging 90 points a game. Holds Kentucky to 63 points. Down in the 30s in field goal percentage. Kentucky is one of the best field goal shooting teams overall in the country. 3-point shooting, 40% shooting team in the country. Arkansas holds Kentucky 2 of 9 in the first half. I mentioned the turnovers. I mentioned Reed Sheppard kind of being the guy that was initiating that spark of 3-point shooting for Kentucky late. Kentucky ends up 7 of 11 from distance in the second half, well over 60%. So for the game, 9 of 20. 45% actually exceeded what the Wildcats normally do from 3. So those two things, the live ball turnovers and conversions late, and then the second half 3-point shooting on a game. Otherwise, Arkansas played a gem of a game defensively. The physicality you mentioned, Arkansas, like I said, was plus in the rebounding department, +5, +2 in points in the paint. The block shots, both teams are good, really good shot blocking teams. We know Arkansas has been. +3 there, 9-6, so advantage Arkansas. Arkansas, we've seen so many games where Arkansas has let go of the rope or just the thing avalanched on them, like I talked about, and you saw just so much dysfunction and connectivity for a game against a quality opponent, one of the best offenses in the country. Defensively, Arkansas looked like the kind of teams Eric Musselman's put on the court in the past. Now, it's a small sample size, and I think the matchup played in Arkansas's favor. I really do. It's not only a finesse Kentucky team. Yeah, they've got some 7-footers. You saw Aaron Bradshaw, ineffective early. The number 33, I can't pronounce his name. He was the most effective of their interior guys. But it was, Trey Mitchell's a finesse, kind of a face-up kind of guy. He does get on the glass. But I really – and then Kentucky's they're not overwhelmingly big or long on the in the backcourt with freshman players that are just their fifth road game. So I thought there were some things that might help Arkansas be in this game. It was never could predict a win though based on the results Arkansas's had. 1-6, by the way, Evan, is the worst start. This is probably something we should have mentioned sooner. We're getting to it now. Worst start Arkansas's had in SEC play in 15 years. John Pelfrey's 08-09. It's a famous season. It's an infamous season around here because that team finished 2-14 for the worst ever run in SEC play. The 1-6 start is also the worst start matching that season. So these two seasons are the worst starts through the first 7 games of any Arkansas team in SEC play, and the Hogs have been enjoying the league in the early 90s. So it tells you how difficult this is. The Hogs are 10-10 overall. And I've talked about it all leading up to this past week where Arkansas had 2 quad 1 win opportunities on the road, Ole Miss and then home at Kentucky. Both are quad 1 opportunities. I said at minimum, Arkansas had to split those games to maintain any slim hopes of turning things around and then actually having an at-large bid kind of a resume at the end of the season. At this point, you went 0-2 in the week. 11 games left. It's insane to say this, and fans think probably I'm insane to even talk about potential for a turnaround. But Arkansas, every game's must win now. 11 games left, and every game's must win to find yourself back on the bubble, maybe going into the SEC tournament. So that's not going to happen. I guess Eric Musselman's had big turnarounds. He had his first Elite Eight team, won its final 11 conference games. But that team was in good shape in net before that run. It didn't need to win out. This team needs to effectively win out because what's left, still 5 quad 1 win opportunities. Arkansas's 1-6 in quad 1 games. You win all of those, you're 6-6 in quad 1. The problem with then you're saying, well, do you really need to win the other ones? Yeah, because you've already got a quad 3 loss. Round robining, it's not a great Missouri team. By the way, Arkansas is on the road at Missouri on Wednesday, back in action on the road. Round robin against LSU, Vanderbilt at home, Georgia comes in. You can't afford to have losses on that. The wins aren't going to help your net so much, but if you lose them, it just damages it more. So effectively, you've got to win out. And I know this may be wasted breath because Arkansas, pretty soon, we won't even have to talk about that. If they lose a couple more, they're even out of that realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting. And to your point, I think that there was a mini viral clip during that Kentucky game of the Reed Shepherd steal and slam. That was really kind of the tipping point when you're like, okay, here comes Kentucky. And it just comes to show you that Arkansas and Kentucky, they're two different teams this season. Kentucky is that top team that knows how to close tight games at the end, like they did against Arkansas. And Arkansas, unfortunately, just couldn't hold on. And obviously, I thought the atmosphere at Bud Walton was, probably as good as we've seen it since Duke, and just goes to show that these are two different teams kind of trending in different different directions, I should say.
You mentioned the steal. Arkansas's point guard play just hasn't been there. If you go all the way back to the Purdue win in exhibition, in my post-game Hogville Net YouTube Live, I talked about, even though L. Ellis had some big plays in that game, especially in overtime, he'd really looked good through the preseason as a lead guard. In that game, there was a lot of question marks that it raised in my mind because of some problem areas I saw against that level of competition. And even though Arkansas won in overtime, I really kind of focused on let's keep an eye on this. And I'm not going to just pick on one guy because no one has really been able to fill that role. But that was the guy that was pointed to do it. And it's just that's a big blind spot for Arkansas. Eric Musselman talked about it, didn't mention names. But it's been like that all season. He's had some good games, but he's a instinct score guy. It's who Musselman recruited to come in and run the offense. That's been a problem. There's been a ton of problems. Defense wasn't one of them for the most part yesterday. And then Tremont Mark, after missing the Ole Miss game, we didn't mention him, comes back and just 11 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. He made effort plays. I thought he was physical on defense. I saw him bodying up guys like Reeves and Shepherd in that first half especially. And those guys, they looked a little bit out of sorts. And kudos to him, not just the interior guys. But it was an off shooting night for Tremont. He's been so good and efficient and scoring in volume. Arkansas's leading scorer, only 11 points on 5 of 17 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. And, he split his 2 free throws, 1 of 2 there. So Arkansas needed more from him. Caleb Battle, who's back-to-back games not shooting the ball well, but at Ole Miss got the start again and scored in double figures. both games. Again, poor efficiency shooting the ball, but in a game where both defenses were kind of running things, you needed some double-digit scoring, and you got it from those three Hogs when we go back to Mekhi Mitchell's double-double.
And this whole time we're also forgetting Trevin Brazil didn't even play yesterday as well.
Right.
And Arkansas was in the game, and you know, I've been reading some of these NBA mock drafts, and they still have Trevin pretty high up going. I think the latest one I saw, I had him going 22 in the first round. But you see a game like this, and then you look at Trevin, and you're kind of like, okay, if he has all this first round talent, and obviously a knee injury is always a scary thing. We know he tore his ACL last year. There's a bit of a misconnect, I want to say, and I could be wrong. You never know, and again, you always want the player to protect himself. He will go on to bigger and brighter things, hopefully in the NBA. He has all the size and talent and athleticism that we talk about, but this was a complete team performance from Arkansas that we haven't seen yet in a while. Minus of course the offensive woes that we've talked plenty about today.
Yeah, and Brazil, this was the kind of game that could have helped him get on track because of the lack of physicality. That's his kryptonite. And this was one matchup. This is the other thing about the defense. Don't get sold that they've turned that around. This is a great matchup for Arkansas just because of the way that I went through a lot of it. But maybe Arkansas does better. Some of these upcoming opponents aren't as strong as some of the teams Arkansas's played through the first 7 games. That's true also. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Brazil, this could have been a launching pad for him in SEC play had he been healthy, just because of the nature of the way Kentucky plays. I really felt like he matched up. I talked about it in all my pregame stuff as though assuming he might be ready to go, not knowing. So this could have been a game for him and might have been the tipping point advantage Arkansas, because I really feel like, again, when you see some of the things that Arkansas hasn't done well most of the season anyway, especially in SEC play, the offense wasn't there, but the hustle play stuff and the physicality, I felt like Brazil could have breezed through some of these guys and had one of his better games. But, again, that didn't happen. Brazil was not available to play. And you understand, you mentioned the injuries. Knee injury last year, dealing with knee soreness, didn't finish the game against Ole Miss, didn't play the second half. Had the ankle turn. He hasn't been the same guy since turning his ankle, because even before that, 19-11-2 against Duke, and you beat Duke without Tremont Mark.
Mm-hmm.
He had 3. That was his third game of a double-double in about a 2-week span. So this was a guy that was starting to come on before he tweaked the ankle. He has not been the same since, but a lot of guys haven't been the same as Arkansas's muddled through a lot of bad, ugly SEC losses. That's why, going all the way back, circling back to the lead here, it was good for Arkansas to be competitive, give itself a chance to win, and basically, square up and stay in the fight against a top 10 rated Kentucky team. Now, Kentucky's dropped 2 in a row. The 17-point loss at South Carolina before this will move Kentucky outside of the top 10 probably, but they'll still be ranked, and it's still a very good team that's a lot of folks have projected as a top 4 seed come NCAA tournament time.
Absolutely. And before we go, Kevin, let's talk some Hog recruits. There was a couple in the house yesterday for the Kentucky game. Who was there and what do you got on them?
Several outstanding players. We're going to start with 2026, class of 2026, Central Arkansas guy, Little Rock Christian Academy, Jason J.J. Andrews, big 6'6" wing, quick, explosive, strong, already looks like a college senior when you look at him physically, and a smart player, very team-oriented kind of guy. Love his game. Absolutely love JJ's game, but he was in the house, as was class, and so he's got an Arkansas offer. He's been on campus and at games. He's been on unofficial visits. He'll continue to do that. And then when you look at also in-state, in your backyard up there in Springdale, class of 2025, ESPN just updated its rankings. By the way, J.J. Andrews, ESPN updated their 2026 rankings. Number 18 is where he came in at in their top 25 and a 5-star. But when we look at Isaiah Seeley from Springdale, 6'6" guard, can play the 1, 2, or 3. ESPN just released its updated rankings for class of 2025. He comes in at number 51, so a high-level 4-star. He was in the house. Parker Jefferson, a 6'10" forward center out of Waxahachie, Texas. He's been on campus before. He would be a legacy if he joined the program. Class of 2025, a 4-star. His parents both were played athletics at Arkansas. His mom on the basketball team. His dad was a lineman for the football team back in the day. So his name, Parker Jefferson, is a sharing of his mom's last name and his dad's last name. But he's a guy that has interest in Arkansas, and Arkansas has interest in him. He's been on campus multiple times now. He was in attendance. His teammate at Waxahachie High School, 6'3" guard. This guy's a sharpshooter, man. Trey Nunn was in the house. You had multiple players again from Central Arkansas and other parts of the state. When you look at Jordan Harris, a 6'8" forward out of Maumelle, Tristan Yankee out of Joe T. Robinson is another 6'8", kind of small forward wing. Micah Moore, 5'9" guard at Joe T. Robinson. And then Amari Neal, a 6-foot guard out of Tuckerman, made his first unofficial visit for the game. So Arkansas had multiple players in the house. You always want to utilize these big game scenarios Saturday weekend because these players are in their season throughout the week. So you want to make sure you maximize these opportunities. By the way, Arkansas is going to have another 5-star visitor in from the class of 2026, Jaden Johnson, a 6'5" guard out of Louisville, Kentucky, top 25-star in that 2026 class. He told me, and I had it in one of my recruiting article that I put on hogville.net this week and at KNWA's website, that he'll be in on Saturday, February 10th, when Arkansas hosts Georgia in the second of that round-robin home and away series. We know the Hogs lost by 10 in a competitive game on the road earlier at SEC play, but Jaden Johnson will be in the house again, a top 25-star guard, 6'5", out of Louisville, Kentucky in the class of 2026. That's February 10th, Arkansas, Georgia.
Ooh, wow. And if any of these guys are not impressed with the atmosphere of Bud Walton, because yesterday was absolutely electric, I don't know really what else is going to get them. But Kevin, anything else before we go?
Not really, other than, hang in there, everybody. There's more basketball to be played. You might have to turn away from some of these games, but Arkansas might rise up and surprise. Maybe there's something there yesterday to build on. And, is there a less is more kind of, math here? I don't know, but for a game, the game plan to grind the game down and match up against where the Arkansas had some advantages, I thought they did a good job top to bottom, coaching all the way down.
As always, Kevin, thanks for joining us. That's going to do it for your Hog Hoops Report. That's Kevin McPherson. I'm Evan Camico. More Pig Trail Show coming up after the break.